mobile photography concept. So first module, I'm sure that many of you have attended, and if not attended, we had each region has made.
Yes, good evening everyone. So we will start with day 2 of our mobile photography workshop. So Blue Star presents workshop on mobile photography in association with Focus Pixel. Yes everyone. So before we start with the second session, we will just rewind a bit and जो first session में हमने देखा था उसका हम लोग revision करेंगे. So we have learned about what is photography. Okay, photography is an art, is a science. Okay, so as an art हमने उसका डेफिनेशन देखा था सबसे पहले. उसके बाद में हम लोग ने डिस्कस किया था कि डे 1 डे 2 डे 3 में हम लोग क्या क्या करने वाले हैं. सो जिसमें से आज हम लोग देखेंगे डे 2 में रूल्स नॉट सो मैंडेटरी पार्ट 2, टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट्स, बेसिक ऑफ लाइटिंग एंड आई विल बी गिविंग यू अनदर असाइनमेंट. असाइनमेंट की बात आती है तो लास्ट सेशन में मैंने एक असाइनमेंट आपको बताया था कि यू हैव टू एक्सप्लोर योर कैमरा, क्विकली बाय रेज ऑफ हैंड्स. कितने लोगों ने अपने कैमराज ओपन करके ऑप्शंस जो है वो एक्सप्लोर किए हैं? जस्ट रेज योर हैंड. जिन जिन लोगों ने किया है, यस, 13 14 15 16, क्विकली. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So, okay. ठीक है. अभी इसमें से मुझे चार्ट में जल्दी से बताइए कि हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू एक्सप्लोर अ न्यू ऑप्शन, केम अक्रॉस एन ऑप्शन विच दे हैवंट हर्ड अर्लियर. ऐसा ऑप्शन जो आप लोग ने फर्स्ट टाइम जो है वो देखा है, वो ऑप्शन का नाम आप बता सकते हैं चार्ट बॉक्स में. जस्ट नेम द ऑप्शन विच हैव केम अक्रॉस फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम. Pano mode, yes. Raw mode, okay. EV हम लोग आज के बेसिक टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट में हम लोग कवर करेंगे. व्हाट इज EV? गाइडलाइंस, फोकस स्पीकिंग, शटर स्पीड, पैनो, फोटोस्फीयर. यस. सो एज यू हैव सीन दैट देयर आर मेनी ऑप्शंस जो आपने फर्स्ट टाइम एक्सप्लोर किए हैं, और बहुत से ऐसे ऑप्शंस हैं जो आपने पहले देखे होंगे, आई एम श्योर, बट यू must have not used it any time. Okay, so we will be trying to use each and every option through this workshop, and also we will be enhancing your photographic skills. So coming back to the history, so हम लोग ने रूल ऑफ थर्ड्स देखा था. एज सेट की रूल ऑफ थर्ड्स is very important and basic photographic tool. Rule of thirds is very important and basic photographic tool, जिसमें canvas को हम लोग दो vertical and दो horizontal lines में, as I am showing you on the screen. पूरे canvas को हम दो वर्टिकल एंड दो हॉरिजॉन्टल लाइन में डिवाइड करते हैं. सो ये जो पॉइंट्स है, दीज इंटरसेक्टिंग पॉइंट्स these intersecting points are nothing but the point of focus. यहाँ पे you have to place your subjects. We have seen this. Then coming back, we have seen negative space. Negative space is something which you can use more positively. You can keep it blank. हम लोग ने एक एग्जाम्पल भी देखा था जिसमें फोटोग्राफर ने उसकी इंफिनिटी को डिनोट करने के लिए नेगेटिव स्पेस का यूज़ किया था. आफ्टर दैट we have seen golden ratio. We have seen golden ratio. Golden ratio was of two types. One was spiral and the other one was grid. We have seen ki how golden ratio draws your attention to throughout the picture and also towards your subject. After that we have seen symmetry. After that we have seen symmetry, like left and right hand side of both side of the photographs were identical. Symmetry photograph were used for denoting the similarities or the differences between the photographs. Next we have seen depth of field. We have seen depth of field. डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड में हम लोग ने रूल ऑफ डेप्थ देखा था कि रूल ऑफ डेप्थ सेज कि एवरी फोटो इज डिवाइडेड इनटू थ्री प्रिंसिपल्स, थ्री एलिमेंट्स. That is the anything and everything before the subject and between the camera is foreground. The subject itself is the second element, and the third is anything and everything after the subject, behind the subject, that is the background. So foreground, subject and background, ये तीन चीज़ें हमने देखी थी. Okay, अभी let's move ahead with the part 2 of not so mandatory rules. The first one is leading lines. The first one is leading lines. Now leading lines are something ki in a composition there might be some element ki like you can say road पे जब हम लोग चलते हैं, road की photography जब करते हैं, so there are some lines, white lines throughout the road. So we use this in such a way that it draws the attention of the viewer towards the subject, as you can see in the example. Just a second. Yes, as you can see in this example कि यहाँ पे these are the leading lines. These are the leading lines, and all these leading lines are telling us to focus on the object. In the second example beside here we have these leading lines. We have the railing. We have the railing which shows us towards the, which draws our attention towards the subject. Another is an underground tunnel. इस tunnel का photograph के जो भी points है चारों. So these are the leading walls, and you can see these curves. Those are drawing your attention towards the main subject. Okay, now if you want to showcase a specific point of view, a specific point of interest, when you have to draw the viewer's attention towards your subject, is the leading lines you can use. Now leading lines and आगे के 4 to 5 elements जो हम लोग आज देखेंगे, those all have one point in common कि that all those rules make the viewer's attention draw towards the subject. All these 5 parts have the ability to draw the viewer's attention towards your subject. Leading lines के बारे में अगर मैं और डिटेल में जाऊं, so if this is my image, so यहाँ से lines इस तरह से आ सकते हैं from towards the side towards the center. That is one part. Second is कि if here is the subject, the leading lines can be this way as well. Okay, or else if for example we are taking a portrait on a road, so this is the line or this is the road which can be used. You can see a lot of examples by googling it कि like बहुत सारे example leading lines के ऊपर आपको मिल जाएंगे. It is one of the easiest and one of the most attention seeking element in photography. So this was leading lines. After leading lines we come to left to right rule. Left to right rule. Now usually in India left to right rule is used most widely. It shows the it emphasizes the motion of the object in the picture. It emphasizes on motion of the object in the picture. When you have to show कि like leading lines के example में हमने ये image देखा था कि these are the leading lines, and also it is used left to right rule, like the woman walking towards the right side of the image. So whenever you have to show or denote the images, when you have to show the subject is moving, so try to frame it this way, like the subject is moving from left and towards the right. Now this has some controversies, because in India, where English, Hindi, Marathi is the basic medium language, so we are used to write left to right. So our mind also has been trained in such a way that whenever we see an image, it is from left to right. But in Arabic countries, or where the countries that basic medium language is written from right to left, for that particular person, this rule may be an exception. It would not work in that way. So whenever left to right rule is in question, so it is necessary to use the rule of thirds. Okay, rule of thirds भी आप यहाँ पे apply कर सकते हो to denote a motion whenever you are doing it. So this is one controversial issue, but keeping in mind the most basic tendency, human tendency, left to right is the pattern. आपने बहुत सारे मूवीज में भी देखा होगा कि जब भी आपको मोशन जो है वो डिनोट करते हैं, सो सब्जेक्ट ज़्यादातर लेफ्ट साइड से आता है, एंड इट एग्जिट्स टुवर्ड्स द राइट साइड ऑफ द फ्रेम, so that is why left to right draws attention. It shows, it denotes the moment in the image, in the still image, but that will depend upon the perception of the viewer. Like if he's left to right side person, यानी जो बचपन से left to right लिखते हुए आ रहा है, so he will find it attractive, he will find it in a motion, but rather than in right to left. Okay, in India we follow left to right rule. Second, balancing the element rule. अभी इसमें balancing the element rule में कैसे है, it is like whenever you are compositing a frame, you have to balance it in such a way, that it keeps the element rule, balance to element rule worthy. It's like you have to take a judgment call at that time. Ki what portion of the background is necessary to enhance your object, what part of the background is necessary to enhance the object, and accordingly you have to balance the elements. Like for example, if this is the image, this is the composition, and if I have a subject covering more than half of the frame, and background में अगर कोई element है which is more giving emphasis, like for example we can talk about a sun. Okay, यहाँ पे sun है, I have an external source of light over here. Okay, and sun is creating a nice touch or giving a nice cut light on the side of the subject. So whether I have to take this sun into the frame or not, okay, that is the question of judgment. Sun ke jagah it can be mountains, it can be a river. So whether you have to give space to the elements in the background, okay, that will be the judgment call. Now that will depend ki what is the distance between the object and the river. Okay, whether image में I can identify the river or no. Okay, so at that time you have to take a call and you have to adjust the frame accordingly. That is the balancing element. Balancing the element में ऐसे कोई certain rule नहीं है. There is no rule कि you have to keep that portion fixed for your subject. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. So it depends upon the judgment कि if anything is more beautiful in the background and it emphasis more on the subject, okay, you should make the subject more of importance. ऐसा ना हो कि background में आपने कुछ ऐसे ले लिया कि जिसकी वजह से viewer का attention background के ऊपर जा रहा है instead of subject. Okay, so you have to take that judgment call during the balancing of the element part. Okay, so this is one example balancing of the element. यहाँ पे you can see that window is there and a bicycle is there. Now here it is more than one subject. Now here we have more than one subject, and the photographer has used the balancing the element rule more efficiently. Okay, like it has given space for the cycle, for the window as well, and it has also used some negative spacing over here, and it has also used some negative space over here. So this way he has balanced out the elements in the object, in the image, more usefully, more graciously. Okay, now here the window and the bicycle have equal weight balance. So you can see the balancing of the element rule shows you, like if you have more than one subject in an image, you can give equal importance by giving out the space in the image, by giving out the space. दोनों को space जो है वो equally दिया हुआ है, इसलिए वो equal visual weight जो है वहाँ पे वो achieve होता है, इसलिए वहाँ पे achieve होता है. Now this negative space is more of a formal kind of room. This negative space is a formal kind of rule. Okay, so यहाँ पे if this was a blank space, and there was no windows, there was a plain white wall or plain yellow wall, and this was the image over here. So it was an informal room. Which we have seen in the second example of our image, negative space wale example mein it was a bench over here and it was a girl playing on his phone. Okay, so that was the informal room, as per the balancing of the element rule. After that we come to fill the frame rule. Many a time it happens कि none of your rule, neither the balancing, neither the leading lines, nothing is there, and still you want to draw the attention. So many of the photographers use this technique as fill the frame rule. It is nothing but taking the extreme close-up of your subject. There is no room for the background and the foreground of the image. As you can see on this sunflower image, that only the seeds of the sunflower, it has filled the frame in such a way that there is no background. Here with the oranges, here there is some sort of background, but it doesn't imply that we cannot see anything from the background except for the image. You have also seen many images like only the eyes of a cute little girl are there, only the eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. So those kind of photos are more enhanced with fill the frame rule. When you have to click a great close-up, tight close-up, when you have this single subject, so it forcefully draws the attention of the viewer, towards your subject, as there is no other element in the image to cope up with. So that is the fill the frame rule. Other rule we have 70 to 30 ratio. Now 70:30 ratio is very flexible kind of a ratio. 70:30 ratio, it is something that you can divide the images into two parts, 70 and 30. Now you can divided in terms of color, in terms of space, in terms of element, in terms of layout. Like in this example you can see here, like 70/30 spacing में तो है ही कि like lesser space is given to the subject, okay, but the 70/30 ratio rule here is used in terms of colors. In terms of colors, as you can see, most of the color is green, most of the color is green, and this appears कि like 30% of the color जो है white color जो है subject का, that is been enhanced. So in giving it in the traditional space, it has used more unique space, and it has used the division of colors, like 70/30 is divided in terms of colors rather than dividing it in terms of spacing or the element. So this is how you can use the 70/30 ratio. 70/30 ratio is prominently used in sketching. It is prominently used in sketching, but it is one creative way to show out, to make your subject pop up without giving it the center of the image, without giving it the center of the image, without giving it more space. So 30% space में उन्होंने subject को रखा है, which is white in color, another color is green, as you can see in this image. So this is how you can divide your composition. You can give lesser space, 30% space towards your character, towards your subject, but it will make sure कि like your subject is popped out. Okay, are these clear? We have seen about 10 composition techniques. In composition techniques को लेके किसी को कोई सवाल, any questions regarding this? Let me know in the chat box. Yes. Is portrait mode a form of fill the frame? No. Portrait mode में कैसे होता है कि kind of you can say yes, but you have to use that portrait mode in such a way that there is no portion of the background seen, or least portion of the background is seen. Then you can say portrait mode is a form of fill the frame. Okay, but portrait mode is more related to the depth of field concept. जो fifth point हमने देखा था first session में, depth of field, portrait mode is more accurate to that. In balancing the element, do we need to cover the foreground and background? It's up to you. In balancing the element, it is up to you what part of the image is to be used with the foreground, what part is used to be as a background, and what part is used to be as a subject. So it is entirely, there is no certain rule. You can cover foreground and background, but what percentage of the portion is in the foreground and what percentage is in the background, that is the main concept of balancing the element. That is a judgment call, that what looks good towards to the eye during capturing that image, at that time you will have to take a call. So the best thing is ki you have to keep on clicking multiple pictures. So after that, when you are relaxed and you go through the pictures, so you can make out ki like the which is good and which is not. Does this rule really mandatory in photography? As I said, none of this is mandatory, as it is the title of our section, like not so mandatory rules. These rules are not mandatory as talking about photography as a art. Talking about photography as a art, there is no rule, there is no certain rule in art, you have to follow that. Okay, there is no certain rule. Whatever looks good to your eyes, whatever look good to your eyes is photography. It is about the vision, as I said, but these rules will surely make that vision more enhancing, more good. So practicing these certain rules will not make an harm. Okay, but in certain particular frame where you cannot find the rule of thirds, where you cannot find the golden ratio where you cannot fill the frame. Okay, it doesn't mean that your photo won't be good enough. Okay, yes. Is it advisable to crop the image while editing if we fail to properly balance the element in actual image? Yes, you can crop the image while editing as well if you cannot find the balance between the elements. Can you quickly go through all the rules? Yes, we will go it towards the end. By the end, I will repeat all the 10 composition frames in short again. For zoom in micro shots, will combining the other rules like 70-30 or leading lines enhance the micro images? Yes, macro images will be enhanced with, but I don't think there will be more scope for leading lines or left to right rule. You can use left to right rule, like an insect is placed towards the left side of the image if it's moving towards the right. Okay, so you can make the you can combine the rules. Okay, but make sure that by combining the rules you don't what we can say, you don't eliminate the essence of that image. कि like अगर वो photo वो moment अगर निकल गया, so it will not be worth. So try to click pictures and then rule of thirds वगैरह, this with practice automatically your hand will capture the images, your subconscious mind will try to capture the images applying this rules. Okay, but you'll have to give some time, you'll have to keep clicking thousands of pictures. After a certain period of time you will only compare your earlier photos and now photos, and you will see that your subconscious mind has done all the work for you in terms of composition. In terms of composition. Okay, so I guess composition questions are over here. Can we use external lens for micro photo? Kunal, I will tell you about this in the later part of the workshop. Okay, anyone relating to composition questions? Composition questions. No. Okay, so first in the first lecture, we'll move ahead. In the first lecture, we have seen some certain aspects. Three gods of photography we have learned. Three gods of photography we have learned. First was god of speed. First was god of speed. Second was god of lightning. Second was god of lightning. Third was god of depth. God of depth. Now all these are known as, in photographic technical terms, it was known as shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. Shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. Guys, give me a minute. I'll just connect my camera to the system. And we will see all these 3 points in practical. Give me a minute. Yes. Is my camera visible to everyone? Yes, it's visible. So here you can see that many options are there. So this is photo. This is the basic photographic mode which we are using. Okay. Now I'll just show you. I'll just go to the pro mode of the camera. This is the pro mode of the camera. Now I will show you how the shutter speed ISO work. How shutter speed and ISO work. For aperture, we will be seeing like how distance matters. How distance creates that blurriness in the background that makes your depth more shallow. Okay. So firstly, we will start with shutter speed. Now, if you can remember, I have shown you that shutter speed is related to the speed of the object, speed of the object. Higher the shutter speed, greater will be the speed of capturing image, greater will be the speed of capturing images, greater will be the speed of capturing more fast actions. Okay. Now, second effect of the shutter speed was in light. Second effect of shutter speed was in light. Higher the shutter speed, lower the light, lower the shutter speed, higher the light. So quickly I'll just adjust. Like this is my shutter speed. I'll keep the ISO on 125. Okay. Now this is the shutter speed. If you can see, like this is the 1 by 50th. This is the most human eye shutter speed. Okay. And as I increase the shutter speed, decrease the shutter speed, this is 0.6, this is 1.5, 2.5. As you can see that light is increasing. Yes, everyone. And as I increase the shutter speed like 1 by 30th, 1 by 100, 125, 300, you can see that light is being depleting, it is getting darker. Okay. And accordingly, if I click a picture, okay, now I don't have anyone around moving. Okay. So yes, so this is how the light works. While see this, we have one subject over here. So if we increase the shutter speed, the light decreases, and when we decrease the shutter speed, the light increases. Okay. So this is how you can manage the light with the help of shutter speed. Okay. Second, ISO. Talking about ISO, as we said, we'll keep the shutter speed to 1 by 100. Lower the ISO, lower will be light. Higher the ISO, higher will be the light. Lower the ISO, low is the light. As we increase the ISO, the light also increases. This is 2500, 1600, 1250. As I decrease the ISO, the light, the exposure in my image also decreases. Okay. Now talking about the aperture. Here you can see that it's a flat image. Okay. It's a flat image. Now when I place this bottle in front of camera, see the magic. Can you see? See, the background is blur. Okay. This is because the distance from my camera to the bottle, from my camera to the bottle is less than the bottle and the background is the window over here. See, this portion is being blurred out. Okay, so as I reduce the distance, as I increase the distance, you can see that the background is getting sharper. So as I increase this distance between the object and the foreground, between the camera and the object, as I increase this distance is also affected, and the focal length of this distance makes it to be appear sharper. And as I go closer, you can see as this distance is being reduced and this has been blurred. Is this clear, everyone? Everyone in the chat box, is this clear? It's a bokeh effect. Yes, you can say it's a bokeh effect, but bokeh effect is specifically used when we use lights in the background. When we use lights in the background, at that time we call it a bokeh effect. Like when you place the lights in the background, so it will create an effect. So that effect is called as bokeh effect. All these gold circle, yeah. Higher the aperture, higher is the background. No. Higher the aperture, you will get a sharper image. Higher the aperture, you will get a sharper image. Lower the aperture, you will get the more blur in the background. You will get a greater depth of field. Okay, now quickly another one, like there are some option over here. I can see EV. Okay, as some of you guys also mentioned that you have heard EV for the first time. Now what does this EV does? EV ka full form is exposure value. EV ka full form is exposure value. It works similar to ISO and shutter speed. There's nothing change. As you can see, like if I increase the EV, it increases my brightness, it increases my ISO, it increases my exposure, and when I decrease it, it decreases my exposure. So in this way also you can increase and decrease the background instead of using ISO. You can use EV in phones instead of ISO. Okay, now very important few tips I have to give you regarding the photography. Very important few tips which I have mentioned down while I was shooting. Okay, now while clicking photograph, the very first thing, like you have to keep a white handkerchief with you. And you have to make sure that you clean the lens. This is the lens of the photograph. You have to keep it clean whenever you try to take a picture. You have to, before clicking a picture, you have to make sure that your lenses are clean. Okay, now once you do that, after that you have to make sure that you have a stable hand. Like if it's moving and it's shaking, so that shakiness will be appeared, it can appear in your image as well. So when you have to click an object, like here is, I'll tell you about the focus. When I click in the background, you can see the bottle gets blurred and the window has been cleared. Focus. Okay, and whenever I click on the bottle, so again you can see that bottle is in the focus and the image is in out of focus, it gets blurred. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have clicked and locked your focus. You can lock the focus by long press on the object, like here. If I long press on the object, now you can see that it doesn't shifts the focus. Similarly, you can long press the window, okay, on any object anywhere you have to focus, so it will adjust the exposure value accordingly and it will set the brightness. Okay, so this is focus lock. Another thing, one is clean the lens, second is the focus, third is the exposure. Like as I can see here, it is a bit underexposed, so what I'll do, I'll increase the focus, I'll increase the ISO a bit. Keep the shutter speed 1/15. Okay, I increase the ISO to 320. Okay, so once it's done, I will click a picture. As you can see, like this, it has focus, it has the depth. Okay, so basically more depth, more good photos, because human eye is being appealed by this image. And another one question I have to attend, like someone in the last session has asked when you can use the ultra wide view. So ultra wide view, usually what happens, it distorts your images, it distorts your images. So instead of using ultra wide angle, what you can do, with using the normal camera of your phone, using the normal camera of your phone, you can just quickly use the panoramic mode. You can open the panoramic mode and you can slide it. Okay, you will get the entire picture, and once you get the entire picture, you can crop to the specific part which you want as an wide image, wide angle image. You can crop that part as an wide angle image. So that is way you can avoid using wide angle camera of your phone and you can use panorama instead. Okay, now here I have some questions. Does EV add noise to the image as ISO? No, EV doesn't add noise. It depends upon certain handsets, it can add, but it knows the threshold of your camera. If you are using the default camera app, which I'll recommend, then it will not add. What is EV? EV is nothing but it is the exposure value. It is the exposure value. It increases and decreases the brightness and nothing else. It is denoted by plus and minus symbol, and you can increase the brightness and lower. This is what EV is. Does higher EV increase noise in picture? No. No. Okay, now other tip is like practice pro mode, practice this shutter speed, ISO, EV as explained today. Okay, and while doing night photography, make sure that you have a stable tripod. Make sure that you can use either tripod or you can adjust your camera in such a way that it doesn't moves. Use the timer, like when you click a picture, even if it's on a tripod, whenever you click a picture, it makes the camera to shake a bit. Okay, so use the timer so that there is no chance of movement while clicking the photo in the night vision. Okay, so this is the basic. Okay, like you can see some grids are also shown, like you can place the camera using these grids in by using the rule of thirds. Okay, so this is all about today's session. Now let's just quickly revise the composition techniques. Which we have seen today. So firstly, rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is composition technique. In this composition technique, we divide the entire image into 9 equal parts with 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, and we place the subjects in these intersection points. So these are the rule of thirds. Negative space, where the space, entire space is denoted by a blank wall, or you can say or skies, okay, where the object is the lesser part of the image and there is a wider space in the image. Negative space is used for denoting the infinity, denoting the negativity. It can also backfire, so make sure that you use this negative space more effectively. Golden ratio is of two types, grid and spiral. Spiral golden ratio and grid golden ratio. It helps you take the entire attention of the viewer throughout the image towards your center. Symmetry is dividing the image into two parts, left hand side and right hand side. Both should be identical. It is used to denote similarities and differences in a best way. Depth of field is where you can blur the background, and you have a shallow depth of field where you can use more images and you can concentrate on the subject effectively. Then you have leading lines are seen today, like you have some path or lines or trees or passage, anything which leads towards your subject, which leads your attention towards your subject, is leading line. Left to right rule, as I said, it is one controversial rule, but it is very effective, where you can show the movements of the image moving from left towards the right side of the photograph. Balancing the element, it depends upon your judgment while clicking a picture, like what should be the portion of the subject and what should be the portion of the elements all you have, if you have more than one subject, and how you can place it into the frame. Filling the frame entirely with the subject, ignoring the foregrounds and the backgrounds. 70-30 ratio is dividing your image into 70-30 ratio. It can be divided in terms of color, in terms of proportion, where 30% of the proportion is used by your subject, So these are the composition lines which we have seen. These are the composition techniques, okay, and we have seen some basic elements, okay. Now one short topic before ending up, it basic of lighting. Like for lighting, the most basic 3 light setup tool is there. In this 3 light setup is like if you are standing here, okay, this is the camera, okay, if you are standing here, so first key light should be at a 45-degree angle. Here is the subject, okay, so this is the 45-degree angle. Here should be the main source of light, okay. On the other side, this should be the fill light. Like if whenever you keep your key light in this direction, this will be the light, okay. So here in this part there will be some shadows, so this fill light should fill up these shadows, and the third basic light setup is on top behind the subject, in the background. This will be the area. So this is the one key light which is in this direction. This is the fill light in this direction, which fill ups the shadows created by the key light. And the third is backout light, which gives you a nice cutout. So this is the studio setup and basic lighting. Which we use while creating portraits in a studio. For outdoor photography, mobile photography, basic lighting. For outdoor and mobile photography, basic lighting is whatever available naturally is the basic lighting, and it is the only lighting you require. For example, if you are out and there is a sun, okay, while shooting indoor, you have a window, you stand beside the window, then you will find a great lighting. One pro tip while using the sun, someone in the last seminar has asked ki, like, what is good, in the sun or against the sun? Both are not good. Okay, when you are standing against the sun, the photographer is here, the sun is the in behind the photographer. So when you stand in this line, for example, I'll just draw you for, so this is the sun, okay, and you are standing here, this is the subject, and you're clicking a photograph like this, in this segment, in this direction. So in this way the sun will give you a harder light, okay, it will give you a hard light. Instead, you change the position of this camera to here, keep the sun here, here is the object, and click your photograph in this way. Okay, you can keep it here or here, depending how you want your shadows to appear in your portrait, depending how you want to make your shadows. So the light source, the object, and the camera should be in triangular form, should be in the triangular form. Okay, any questions? What if my phone doesn't have a pro mode? What if my phone doesn't have a pro mode? For practice, see, for clicking good pictures you don't need a pro mode, but to practice whatever we have taught you today here, for that practice, you can use third party applications. You can go to the Play Store and download any application with the pro mode, okay, and you can explore these options. After exploring my device, I found that my phone did not have the pro mode, so I am not able to control the ISO. Reach open camera, that can give me control to adjust these things, and it did not affect any filters. Yes, you can use such app to click pictures, not an issue. You can use third party applications to click pictures as well, but make sure that you don't use any of the filters. You have to make sure you have to go through the guidelines. We will be giving out some guidelines regarding the filters. Okay, as far as the application is concerned, you can use any app to click a picture, not an issue. There are 3 to 4 methods to increase and decrease brightness. Example, changing ISO, shutter speed, EV. When to use what? Okay, so as shutter speed, as I told you, like shutter speed, if you are changing shutter speed and if you are reducing it to more than 1 by 125, so it will, whenever you click a picture, okay, so it will give you a blur kind of motion. So it depends, shutter speed depends upon the action of the image, speed of the image. Okay, while EV and ISO are purely light related, exposure related variables where you can change it as per your needs. Shutter speed will depend upon the speed of the object you are using to capture. Which aspect ratio to use? Aspect ratio guidelines will be there. Okay, it will be in the guidelines, like which aspect ratio is to be used for the competition. Yes, any other question? We see some pics with higher shutter speed. yet with better brightness. How come? Light depends upon the sources which you are using. Like for example, in this room I have to keep an ISO of about 2000 or maybe 3000. Okay, and I have to keep a shutter speed at 125 or 150. Okay, with this same setting, when I move outside in the sun, obviously there is more light as compared towards the inside of the room. So it depends upon the lighting conditions. Where you are standing, what sources of light is available at your disposal, and at that available light will determine the shutter speed. It also happens many times like you have to move the shutter speed to 400, 500, 1 by 500, 1 by 400. At that time you will get a proper exposure. So whenever you will practice, okay, until and unless you practice, you can't say like with higher shutter speed you will get a proper lighting or no. So it depends upon the available light source. During competition, can we use a phone that doesn't have a pro mode? Yes, for the competition you can use a phone that doesn't have a pro mode. Yes, any other questions? Coming to the assignment, coming to the assignment part. So today's assignment is you have to capture few pictures. You have to capture few pictures using one composition technique, that is rule of thirds. Using one composition techniques, that is rule of thirds. You have to click a picture using the composition technique rule of thirds. Is that clear, everyone? Everyone in the chat box, have you gotten the assignments? Yes. I'm sharing one link in the chat box. Everyone, I'm sharing one link in the chat box. Okay, you can go on Telegram and search the Focus Pixel Digital as well. You will find one public channel, Focus Pixel. You have to click pictures using the rule of thirds and share your images in this group. Okay, on this Telegram channel, it is a Telegram channel. From this Telegram channel, I will be selecting some case studies कि like अगर आपका कुछ गलत हुआ है, so what went wrong, okay, and if it's exceptional. For assignment purpose, you can submit the edited one only. The assignment is you have to click some pictures. Keeping in mind the composition, that is the rule of thirds. That is following the composition technique rule of thirds. any one rule of third is one only. Okay, rule of photography, rule of compositions are 10 which I have shown you. Out of that, rule of thirds is the one which we divided the entire composition into 9 equal parts with 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines. That rule you have to use. That rule you have to use and place your subjects in any one intersection point. Any one intersection point. You can submit one image, you can submit multiple image. It's up to you. It is up to you. You have to submit these photographs on the Telegram channel sent in the chat above. On the Telegram you can search the Focus Pixel Digital. Just a second, I'll drop you a proper link. Just a moment. The sharing option in the Telegram channel will be opening soon. The sharing option in the Telegram channel will be opening soon. This is the link. This is the link to the channel. I'll also be uploading some case studies. During and even after the competition. In this group. Okay, you will also be able to share your assignments or any of your questions. I'll try to answer them all even in this group. Okay, so shall we wrap up for today, everyone? Kunal has said that you will be able to post on Telegram group after some time, not today. Okay, I will inform in the group as well. Yes, if there are no questions, we can wrap up.
Mayur. So, thank you, Mayur, for your second session today. So, just
Yes, sir.
informing the team for North, East, and international locations, we'll be having the third session tomorrow. The link will be shared by your team shortly. And for West and South, it will be on 25th of August. We will be sharing you the link. And for the factory locations, it will be on 26th of August. So, the links will be shared with you by your respective HR spokes shortly. So North, East, and international locations, you will have a second session on 23rd.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
looking to attending the session.
Yes.
So the recording will be available. I will be sharing with you all, so you can just have a revision of the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.